These are the best episodes from every season of Family Guy, starting with season 1 in the episode that started it all where Peter committed welfare fraud in the show's pilot, Death Has a Shadow. So we start off by being introduced to the family's defining traits. Meg is an insecure teen, Lois is a responsible mother, and Stewie is an evil genius.
Damn you, vile woman! You've impeded my work since the day I escaped from your wretched womb.
I'm guessing you must have picked up the British accent in preschool or something. We also learn that Brian is the snarky voice of reason, and Peter is the loving but irresponsible father.
Peter, it's 7 o'clock and you've still got your pants on. What's the occasion?
He's going to a stag party.
This is essentially another term for a bachelor party. Who's the lucky guy? Who cares? You'll never see most of these guys again.
Who wants to play Drink the Beer?
Right here.
You win!
All right, what do I win?
Another beer!
Well, except for that guy. Glenn Mirren, I think his name is. Anyway, Peter gets too drunk, which has him falling asleep at his workspace the next day.
It's your job to watch for any toys that could be hazardous to children. Now look sharp!
Unfortunately for Mr. Weed there, Peter's about as sharp as a bubble. And when some dangerous toys slip through the cracks, Peter's let go.
You're fired!
Oh, geez, for how long?
So we know Peter's a bit on the slow side, but we also learn is he's willing to try anything to support his family, even if that anything is really stupid.
You really ought to think of your family's welfare.
Jeez, Brian, that's a great idea.
So Peter starts reeling in welfare money despite being able-bodied. Able-bodied might be too generous for Peter, but you know what I mean.
Boy, who would have thought getting drunk at a stag party would get me $150,000 a week from the government?
Why doesn't everyone do this? It's free money. But all that government spending gets found out by Lois, who starts the recurring trend of always being disappointed in Peter.
Peter, you may have to return that money to the taxpayers.
Yeah, but I gotta make sure Lois knows I'm doing it.
And there's no bigger event in America than the Super Bowl. But not everyone appreciates him making it rain, so he's quickly taken to court.
I cheated the government, and worst of all, I lied to my wife. And she deserves better.
As this show will later teach us, that's the understatement of the century. Everything works out by the end, and the episode does a solid job at setting the groundwork of what the show would be for years. A parody of the traditional family unit with a bit more edge than TV was used to.
Oh, don't worry, I got a way to get money.
Not another welfare scam.
No. Minority scholarship.
Though comparing this episode to now, the show almost feels like night and day. Peter's more loving than neglectful, Lois is more cool-headed than high-strung, Brian is more reasonable than pompous, and Stewie's almost a whole new character. But it doesn't matter if you prefer new or old Family Guy, this is the episode that started it all, and that's definitely worth something. But the show would get a bit more adventurous in their episodes when the Griffins braved the apocalypse in the 3rd episode of season 2, Da Boom. Family Guy was always known for their commentary on the state of the world, and in season 2, they took on the Y2K scare.
Planes will fall out of the sky, and all the world's nuclear weapons will explode, annihilating the entire planet.
Good times. Thankfully, after that, we never thought the world was going to end again. But this was also an episode of first for the series, as it was the first broadcasted episode to feature Mila Kunis as the new voice of Meg.
Kevin asked me to Quagmires Millennium Party. I am so psyched.
And it was also the first instance of Peter fighting Ernie the Giant Chicken.
Chicken gave me a bad Cooper.
This episode is so historic it should be hung in the Louvre. So Peter buys into the Y2K worries, which annoys his family, but he's actually right for a change.
Holy crap! Anybody else feel that?
This episode is also the first time the show went in a weird direction that was outside the show's usual status quo when it came to storytelling and episode endings. So Quahog is now a nuclear wasteland with all sorts of freaks hanging around.
Oh, hey, Clevemeyer.
That's Quagland!
Quagland? Oh, you must be dreaming.
So the Griffins pack up their car and head to Natick to find the one food that can survive the apocalypse.
There are only 2 things that can survive a nuclear holocaust. Cockroaches and Twinkies. And there's a Twinkie factory in Natick.
Okay, but have you at least tried eating the cockroaches yet? They're high in protein. But lo and behold, they find the Twinkie factory in Natick still standing. Wow, Peter is 2-0 on predictions. Even a broken clock is right twice a day, I guess.
I hereby proclaim this city New Quahog.
And so they rebuild the town with Peter as mayor. Unfortunately, he ran out of good calls to make after the first 2.
Today, my vision for our future comes true. A chicken in every pot and a camp in every ass.
So the townsfolk throw him out for using their irrigation pipes to make guns, only to be attacked by a gang of mutant Stewies after they destroyed the guns.
Hey, Bob, you remember the other day you were asking me what the definition of irony was, and I said,
Couldn't have said it better myself. So the family walks off into the unknown together, but it turns out it was all a dream.
Oh, Bobby, I just had the weirdest dream. I dreamt I saw the strangest episode of Family Guy.
This is a great example of Family Guy's sense of humor. The clip is a reference to an old show called Dallas, where the man who died in the previous season is revealed to be alive and the whole prior season was just a dream. When I was younger, this went way over my head, but now I appreciate it for being such a weird reference to include a decade after that episode aired. Da Boom is a preview of just how out there the show could and would get, and it's the best of season 2 in my eyes. And in season 3's 12th episode, To Love and Die in Dixie, the show experimented with more locations outside of Quahog as the Griffins entered the Witness Protection Program and relocated to the Deep South. So this episode is historically significant because it's the first appearance of everyone's favorite elderly weirdo, Herbert.
That's a nice muscly throwing arm you got there.
Who knew that a whistling voice and creepy comments would catapult this guy to fan favorite status? But this episode isn't about him, it's about Chris witnessing a guy robbing the mini-mart.
This is a holdup! Open the register!
Man, this guy went from being the notorious mass media murderer to a simple robber. He really fell off. So instead of stepping in and apprehending him like a true hero, Chris just fingers him at the lineup. That is an actual legal term, and you are forbidden to laugh at it.
I'm here to pick up my son, Chris Griffin. He's here to finger the guy who held up that convenience store.
See, Peter gets it. Too bad he's told the perp exactly who put him in jail.
I'm gonna go bang my girlfriend, and then I'm gonna kill Chris Griffin!
Well, can't say he doesn't have his priorities in order. So the Griffins are entered into the Witness Protection Program and relocated to the Deep South, a magical place filled with missing teeth and cute critters.
Must be some kind of nature show. Help! Help! Get off! Get off! Ah!
But it's not all bad, as Chris quickly becomes friends with a kid named Sam.
Are you mad at that pond?
Shoot, no. Of course, this pond did kill my grandpappy.
And Peter becomes the new sheriff. God help that little town.
You just hang out here, eat some pie, and get drunk.
Wait, hold on a second. Pie? Drunk?
But the town turns on the Griffins when Peter points out that the North beat the South during the Civil War.
We don't take too kindly to that sort of talk, mister. And I sure as shoot don't want your kid hanging around with my kid.
Hundreds of years later, they're still sore losers. You hate to see it. Despite their parents hating each other, Chris and Sam try to remain friends, but Chris's feelings are all over the place when he realizes what Sam is.
You're a girl?
Of course I am.
Oh my god!
That's just his default reaction to women, I guess. But it turns out he finds it much easier to talk to girls when he just pretends they're boys. I'm sure that won't cross too many wires in his brain.
You want to go down to the Old Town Bridge and make out?
Yes, sir!
But that robber finds Chris and tries to end him, only to be saved by the town putting aside their differences.
Well, we take care of our own. And as long as y'all live here, y'all are Southerners too.
On occasion, being in a place obsessed with guns does have its benefits. This episode is remembered fondly for putting the Griffins in a new, unique location that gave them ample room to commentate on the South and get into all kinds of hijinks. Are the stereotypes a bit of low-hanging fruit? Sure, but it's further proof that Family Guy can and will make fun of everybody. And that includes the FCC, as Family Guy poked fun at TV censorship with the classic season 4 episode, PTV. But before that happens, the episode starts by poking fun at the founder of Al-Qaeda.
Death to... I can't do it. I can't do it.
Who quickly gets made a joke of by Stewie.
I'm Stewie Griffin. And don't ever let me catch you guys in Quahog.
Despite the episode coming out in 2005, America was still reeling from the 9/11 attack and the ongoing war in the Middle East. This was just a way Family Guy could bring humor and brevity to the situation. But this clam isn't prepared to talk about the political nuances of all that, so let's talk about the rest of the episode. So Peter gets fed up with the Federal Communications Commission's heavy censorship of TV and decides to make his own network.
And you're watching PTV, where you get to watch your favorite shows as nature intended them.
On a smartphone at 2 times speed? Oh, sorry, this episode is from 2005, back when we all had attention spans. Anyway, the station is a hit, so Peter decides to branch out with some of his own high-quality programming.
The Peter Griffin Side Hour. A wonderful look back on all the partial nudity network television used to offer.
Hey, I never said it was highbrow, but Lois gets fed up with the tasteless content, so she calls the FCC herself to put a stop to it. Good thing she did, because that gave us one of the best original songs in Family Guy history.
There's no negotiation with the fellas at the freaking FCC.
The song is essentially a highlight reel of Family Guy's most controversial scenes of the past 4 seasons. Sure, they look tame by today's standards, but at the time, Family Guy is one of the most controversial shows on network television. The FCC definitely had their work cut out for them. But the FCC steps in to not only shut Peter down, but to also start censoring his life.
What are you doing?
Censoring real life.
Don't forget Peter's chin. It's looking kinda... you know.
No, I can't say my own house. Great, Lois. Just great.
Lois eventually admits she was wrong, which means we get a rare Peter W.
Finally, I can do this. I set that thing up 15 years ago.
So Peter travels to Capitol Hill to get the FCC's decisions reversed, tapping into the idea that indecency is ingrained into the very fabric of America.
And the Pentagon? Well, you look me in the eye and tell me it doesn't look like a big
So there are private parts everywhere for those with dirty minds to see. I don't think I'll ever be able to look at the Statue of Liberty again. Peter's point is heard and Congress reels back the power of the FCC. This episode is iconic for its commentary on the state of TV censorship, and a heavily censored show like Family Guy would know all about that. The FCC song is hilarious and catchy, while the jokes at the government agency's expense are over the top yet poignant. But they're good sports, as Seth MacFarlane revealed that the FCC found the episode quite amusing. I guess they aren't the humorless, stuck-up, no-fun-allowed demons we thought they were. But for a prime example of Peter's idiocy, look no further than when he and Brian alter the past, which made Lois marry Quagmire in the Season 5 episode, Meet the Quagmires. Season 5 was an all-around great season, but the 18th episode stands out with its time travel plot, its what-if scenario, and overall solid comedy. So Peter convinces Death to take him and Brian back to 1984 so Peter can live a crazier youth.
Lois, we got the rest of our lives for me to not hear a word you just said, but tonight I got plans with Cleveland.
I know Peter's dumb, but he must be borderline brain dead to pass up a date with Lois for a little clubbing. But that decision comes back to bite him when he returns to the present to find he's married to a different woman.
Molly Ringwald? You're my wife?
We've been married for 20 years.
Look, I'm all for the Peter and Lois ship, but Molly Ringwald is an American icon. Maybe that's not so bad.
Hey, where the hell is Lois?
That's weird. Looks like she's coming out of Quagmire's house.
Yep, in this timeline, Quagmire and Lois are married and have given birth to some true monstrosities. Peter wants Lois back, but she's perfectly happy with Quagmire. What Peter is experiencing is the lose part that comes after you snooze.
I thought you might be the one. But as I recall, you were more interested in partying with your friends.
So he gets Death to take him back to the past, where he fails again, and again to win her back. I'm starting to question whether or not he really likes her.
I'm going to the country club dance with Glenn. I wanted to surprise you with the invitation last night, but you never showed up.
So Peter and Brian sneak into the dance, and Peter tries to sweep Lois off her feet.
You had your chance with me and you blew it. Now leave us alone.
But there's one thing, one act of passion so powerful and moving that Lois just can't ignore. A sucker punch to the face.
Hey, Quagmire!
Huh?
My only question is, how could Peter and Quagmire still be friends after this? Who cares? Love is in the air.
Will you be my wife?
Yes. Yes, I will.
They kiss, the future is restored, and they celebrate by playing the song they used to troll people with back in the 2000s.
Never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you.
Meet the Quagmires is a standout of classic Family Guy. Peter's characterization as a misguided but well-meaning idiot faced perhaps its highest stakes ever, which delivered on an episode with a great Back to the Future parody story and some all-timer moments like Brian's ending song and Peter's interactions with Death. Alternate reality stories are some of Family Guy's bread and butter, and this episode is a prime example of the show's heyday. But the 5th episode of Season 6 provided a much darker alternate reality, one where Lois returns from a failed assassination attempt to take down her baby and Lois kills Stewie. This spot could have easily gone to the prior episode, Stewie kills Lois, but I thought this one had a much bigger and crazier payoff. So just to recap.
Stewie killed Lois!
Then what?
Peter got blamed!
Then what?
Peter went to court!
Then what?
Lois came back!
Ow.
Wasn't really dead!
Thanks, Ollie! So Lois warns everyone of how dangerous Stewie is, but before the little guy can be arrested, he escapes.
Mom, Dad, Stewie's gone!
But he doesn't get far, returning home to hold the family hostage.
How long you been all messed up and evil like this?
Oh, so now you're interested in Stewie?
So has everyone been able to understand him this whole time and just never cared to listen? Dang, yeah, I'd be mad too. After killing an unlucky Cleveland, Stewie makes Brian drive him to the next stop of his master plan. And back at the house, the family discovers Stewie's sick weapons room. That's a lot of house renovation to do to a home they apparently don't own.
Wow, look at all this cool stuff.
Sure, if you think a baby having WMDs is cool, which I do, just for the record. So Stewie and Brian arrive at the CIA, where Stewie attempts to take control of the world's satellites.
Once they're under my control, the entire world will be subject to my whims.
It looks like he means... Wait, did he just say whims? Why so much emphasis on the H? With the world's power grids at his disposal, the CIA has no choice but to surrender to Stewie. Oh, and Stan Smith is here. Hi, Stan.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special message from the new president of the world.
Greetings, loyal minions.
Sure, he's evil, but he does implement some stellar laws.
Anyone who sees Peter Griffin must throw apples at him.
Yeah, I'd like to make a deposit. Ah!
Fed up with Stewie's tyranny, Lois goes full Rambo and decides to fight him to the death.
I will not stand by while you make innocent people suffer.
Bring it on.
The fight is brutal and bloody. Who knew you could get this much satisfaction from seeing a baby get beat up? But when Lois gets the upper hand, she can't bring herself to end it.
Well, that works out perfectly because I can hurt you!
But before he can pull the trigger, Peter makes the save with a line that goes hard.
It's just been revoked.
Well, it went hard in the movie he stole it from. A valiant attempt. But wouldn't you know it, the whole thing was just a simulation to find out what would happen if Stewie tried to kill Lois.
I suppose I'm not ready to kill Lois or take over the world. Yet.
Normally, this kind of ending would be a complete rug pull, but I guess we should have known it was all a stunt. Even so, the episode is another great what-if story that set up some fun situations and led to a killer final battle between mother and son, while further cementing Stewie as one of the best characters on the show. But Stewie's genius would lead him and Brian on a journey through World War II Europe to rescue Mort in episode 3 of season 7, Road to Germany. So things kick off with Mort mistaking Stewie's time machine for a bathroom. I know what you're thinking, a Mort episode is the best of the season? Just bear with me, alright? So Brian and Stewie go back in time and end up somewhere in Europe.
September 1st, 1939. There's something about that date.
Yeah, BTS's song Dynamite topped the Billboard 100 chart on September 1st, though I think I may be a couple years off. Anyway, they find Mort at a Polish wedding, and instead of immediately returning home, they decide to enjoy the festivities.
Besides, I've never been to a Hebrew wedding.
Well, I guess we could stay a little longer.
But while they celebrate, Nazi Germany prepares to invade Poland. I know this show is mostly about jokes, but the juxtaposition of the upbeat celebrating alongside the impending doom of one of the world's greatest tragedies is honestly pretty haunting.
September 1st, 1939. This is the German invasion of Poland.
The group tries to return home, but in traditional time machine fashion, it doesn't work. They really need better customer support for these things. So the group makes the long trip to the edge of the country. Unfortunately, the show had to cut the scene where Mort tells us how he really feels about all this.
I hate this whole goddamn place. It's all a bunch of goddamn.
Luckily, the group manages to steal a submarine, avoiding enemy subs and making it all the way to Britain.
Oh, here's the problem.
What? What is it?
The transfer circuits are powered by uranium and this thing is tapped out.
And this is the 1930s, you know, the time before you could find a uranium store on every corner. To get to Berlin, the only place nearby with uranium, the group joins a dogfight alongside the Royal Air Force and Hawkmen?
Stand by, my Hawkman! Dive!
I guess I must have slept through that part in history class. The trio abandon their plane via a raft, which they ride all the way to Berlin.
It's here. The uranium lab is in here.
So the group does their best Third Reich cosplay to infiltrate the base and grab some uranium.
Okay, the time machine is refueled. Let's find a safe spot and make the trip back home.
Well, this is awkward. Don't you hate it when you're wearing the same outfit, hairstyle, and paintbrush mustache as someone else? So they're about to be executed unless...
Unless what?
Unless they can sing a charming musical number.
Well, this is a Road 2 episode after all. Hit it, boys.
Whenever. Damn it, will you two just get in the time machine?
Dang. Well, maybe next time. Despite its lack of a musical number, this proved to be another fun Road 2 style episode. Mort, of all characters, was actually pretty entertaining in a semi-leading role, while the historical references are rather solid despite not always being the most accurate. It further proves that whenever you see a Road 2 episode in a season, you know you're in for a good time. Speaking of which, the first episode of season 8 is considered one of the best episodes of all time, involving Brian and Stewie going on a journey across realities en route to the multiverse. So Stewie has invented a device that allows him to travel to different universes. I guess when you're a baby, you have all the time in the world, huh?
Now, in each of these alternate universes, the reality is different than our own. Sometimes only slightly, sometimes quite radically.
Luckily, they're only going to visit the interesting ones. Can you imagine if they just went to a reality where everyone was 1 inch taller than usual? Not the most riveting programming.
In this universe, Christianity never existed, which means the dark ages of scientific repression never occurred.
Just how advanced is this reality? Well, they managed to do the impossible. They made Meg hot. But Brian wants to see what else is out there, so they hop around for a bit until they think they've returned home.
Sure thing, Lois. Delighted to. I get tired when I stand.
Either there was a radioactive meltdown in the hour they've been gone, or this isn't the right reality. For how smart Stewie is, he really forgot to install a GPS into that device.
Stewie, please tell me you know how to get us home.
Of course I know how to get us home.
But judging by the next few minutes of dimension hopping, that was obviously a lie. This episode did give the show a chance to experiment with different animation styles, taking inspiration from Disney.
It's a wonderful day for pie. You can ask all the birds in the sky.
Robot Chicken.
How's it feel to be on a major network for 30 seconds?
You!
And whatever this is.
Lois, where is my supper?
Still in the oven.
Will I have it soon?
Quite soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
While it seems like they'll never make it back home, they do stumble across a world that's Brian's heaven. A world where dogs are the top dog.
Now let's go home. Hey, what the hell are you doing?
I just don't think we should be too hasty.
And now you've broken the device. Better get comfy picking up Stewie's poop, Brian.
Go on, pick it up. Do it. Pick up my poop!
As well as finding their dog family, Stewie's able to learn a little something from his poodle counterpart.
We've been jumping randomly from one universe to the next. Did you have the shuffle button on?
Technology is somehow both incredible and the dumbest thing ever. Finally, they're able to make it home with a new friend in human Brian. Gotta be honest, he's not the easiest face to look at.
Oh my god, he got hit by a car!
Not gonna say I'm happy about that, but it was probably for the best. This is perhaps Family Guy's craziest episode, featuring a ton of interesting worlds that create a launchpad for great situational comedy. It allowed the team to really get creative, and it 100% paid off. Rewatching this episode reminds me of how niche a topic multiverses were before Hollywood had to drive that idea into the ground. But the best episode of season 9 is essentially a parody of a Hollywood thriller, as the characters of Family Guy must discover which among them is a murderer in And Then There Were Fewer. We've talked about this episode to death on this channel, so here's the short and sweet of it. The Griffins and all the prominent faces of town are tricked into attending a dinner at a remote mansion by resident scumbag James Woods.
Since I'm a man of God now, I am truly repentant.
I wouldn't trust this guy as far as I could throw him. We know Woods is a bad guy, but is he a murderer?
Did the cork hit me?
That monster! Stephanie was an iconic character. When pressed about it, James Woods seems to be unaware of what happened and professes his innocence. A likely story for a dead man.
Look!
Props to Dr. Hartman for checking the pulse of every corpse. Can't be having any fake outs tonight. So while the group tries to figure out who the culprit is, more iconic characters meet their end, including Muriel Goldman.
Oh my god!
Derek Wilcox.
Dear God!
And James Woods' girlfriend, Priscilla. Please, let's hold a moment of silence to remember these amazing characters we lost. Okay, that's long enough. The last body was found in Tom Tucker's room, so they immediately assume he's the killer and apprehend him.
Let me go, you... You're all gonna pay for this!
Slight spoiler, but why would he run like that if he's innocent? There was nowhere for him to go. Is he stupid? When morning comes, Tucker is arrested and everyone packs up to leave. Lois goes to comfort his partner Diane, but the truth all comes out.
Oh my god. Oh my god, it was you! You're the killer!
Thanks, Detective Lois, for finally piecing it all together. And all it took was 4 dead bodies. So Diane masterminded the whole thing to kill James Woods and frame Tom Tucker, but when things didn't go according to plan, she ended up with 3 extra dead bodies.
Well, now you know everything, Lois. Which of course means I have to kill you.
So Diane takes her out back to put her down Old Yeller style, but luckily Lois has a guardian angel with a sniper rifle looking over her.
If anybody's gonna take that down, it's gonna be me.
Now he just needs to quit talking about it and actually do it. This spin on the classic Agatha Christie novel is full of twists, turns, and the elimination of several characters that mostly stay permanent. During a sit-down chat discussing Family Guy's 25th anniversary, Seth MacFarlane revealed that this episode is his favorite across the board, and it's not hard to see why. It's brutal, hilarious, and felt like a breath of fresh air after 10 years of being on the air. But the best episode of season 10 goes back to where the show first started, as Brian and Stewie return to the very first episode of Family Guy and back to the pilot. So Brian's trying to remember where he buried a tennis ball years ago.
I remember the exact day, January 31st, 1999.
So you can remember the date to a T, but can't remember where you put it? Dog minds are truly something else, I tell you. So Stewie uses his time machine to take them back, only to find the past was a lot rougher around the edges.
Look at you. You look like a prize at some Mexican church carnival.
So yeah, they've returned to the very first episode of Family Guy. And thank God we covered this already at the beginning of the episode, so I don't have to explain what's going on in that. But we do get an inside look into what goes on while a cutaway is happening.
And then there was that time at the ice cream store.
Creepy, but now we know.
That's the spot. That's where I buried my tennis ball.
But he can't take that ball, as messing with even the smallest bit of the past could have lasting consequences. Got it, Brian?
Will it screw up the timeline if my future pee goes in a past toilet?
No, as long as it goes in the toilet.
Might be asking too much for a guy who does most of his business outside. But before they return home, they interact with past Stewie.
You look like me, but that's utterly impossible. I'm afraid it's true. I'm you from the future.
I feel like Stewie's the one person it's okay to interact with while time jumping. Game recognizes game and whatnot. They make it home, but it's clear a certain someone couldn't keep their fat mouth shut.
Brian, there you are. Come quick, they're about to announce the unveiling of your statue on the news.
Yeah, so Brian told his past self about 9/11 and ended up stopping it. You know, that would have been a good thing if it wasn't done just for Brian to stroke his ego.
I bet 5 years from now, the world will still be better off for what I did.
Is that so?
So the duo tests that theory and find the future to be a bit more three-dimensional.
Chris, I heard you got a D on your report card. Here's a cutaway. Matthew McConaughey is terrible.
And lazier. Honestly, that's not a bad commentary on what people fear entertainment will become in the future. Sterile and low effort.
Oh my god!
Oh yeah, and the world has completely gone to hell. That might be the more pressing matter. So they return to the past to stop their past selves from speaking to their further past selves. If that sounds complicated, you ain't seen nothing yet.
We're from the further future. What these two do is fine. It's what you two do that makes things worse.
This creates a seemingly endless loop of Stewies and Brians, so they put it to a vote.
How many think we should prevent 9/11? Raise your hands.
Imagine a world where you can ask this question and people don't put up their hand. With everyone in agreement, it's time to tie up those loose ends.
Get the back in your time machine!
There are just some problems a gun can fix that a time machine can't. This was a great way to show just how far Family Guy's come in both animation quality and style. Having the two eras alongside one another is not only impressive, but it leads to a lot of poking fun at themselves. This episode is highly creative, highly fun, and a further reminder that a time machine is. And if you need even more examples of that, look no further than the best episode of season 11, Yug Ylimaf, where time accidentally gets reversed, leaving Brian and Stewie to fix it before they cease to exist. So Brian's been using Stewie's time machine to pick up chicks, but freaks out when he sees the time machine keeps track of how many times it was used.
Look, it's no big deal. Just reverse it and take off the miles. That's what I do when I take my dad's car out.
Okay, that girl's definitely too young to be sleeping with Brian, but that idea may just be dumb enough to work. Well, that's the last time I take life advice from a teenager. When they wake up the next morning, they find the time machine destroyed and time itself moving in a different direction.
My machine seems to have reversed the direction of time.
Oh, if I had a nickel for every time that happened to me, I'd have the same amount of nickels as I do now, which is none. Because no one uses nickels anymore. While this all seems goofy, there are some absolute horrors to reversing time.
Get that poop-filled thing away from me! No! Oh god, it's cold!
But hey, at least we can see a chicken fight in reverse. But when they notice Cleveland, who moved out of Rhode Island a while ago, they realize that not only is time going backward, it's speeding up.
Dear God, I'm unteething!
If that wasn't unsettling enough, this means Stewie will be unborn at this rate. That means he's going back in the you-know-where. If you do know, please tell me. I have no clue where babies come from.
I've regressed to my pre-ambulatory stage. I can no longer walk!
And it just so happens to be his birthday, which is about to become his unbirthday.
Brian, help! It's up to you! You've got to restore the flow of time!
The fate of the reality could not be in worse pause. So while Brian plays quantum mechanics, Stewie is just about out of reverse time.
No!
Luckily, Brian remembers the age-old fix for any machine. It's not working? Give it a good punch.
And I turn the gauge backward. Maybe if I turn it in the other direction.
Sometimes the most complex problems have the dumbest solutions. But it actually worked, which means Stewie gets to be born again. Hopefully the ride was a bit smoother the second time around.
You saved my life. And for that, I shall be forever grateful.
Once again, another time travel episode steals the season, though this one's gimmick was quite different. Reversing time leads to a lot of comedic scenarios and callbacks that the writers took full advantage of. And once again, the time machine nearly leads to their ends. Good thing Stewie destroys it later down the line. But that decision proved to be a problem after Brian died, as the Griffin's new dog Vinny tried to help Stewie's Christmas wish come true in the season 12 episode Christmas Guy. So the first half of this episode involves Peter trying to find Carter's Christmas spirit, but the real reason people like this episode is because of the second half.
What's wrong with you, Stews? You're next up to see the big guy himself and you look like a piece of spaghetti on the street.
Not sure what that's supposed to mean, but whatever. Stewie's feeling the seasonal depression, though he's unsure why.
You know what I want for Christmas? I want my friend back.
Using my detective skills, I deduce he's referring to Brian, that other dog who got killed off 2 episodes ago.
I don't care about anything except Brian. I want Brian!
That's gonna take some real black magic to figure out, but hey, Santa's performed miracles before. Wait, that's Jesus. Yeah, you might be done for, Stewie. So Vinny tries to cheer Stewie up by acting like Brian.
Whose leg do you got a gagoosh to get an amaretto di Serrano around here?
It's a bit like if you ordered Brian off of Temu.
I appreciate all this, Vinny, but there's only one Brian, and It's tough for me that he's gone.
You know what'll take your mind off of your dead dog? A brand new toy.
Okay, Stewie, pick anything you want. I'm me.
But before he can, he notices a kid with a peculiarly shaped head.
It's me from the past. Several months ago, I time-traveled ahead to purchase that Christmas toy.
A few days before Christmas sounds like the worst time to buy any toy, but hey, I won't argue with the process. Especially because this means Stewie now has access to a time machine.
Vinny, I need you to get that Stewie to take off his backpack.
Now you're speaking Vinny's thieving language. So Vinny distracts past Stewie long enough for current Stewie to get the time machine.
Now all I've got to do is set the coordinates to the moment before Brian got killed and I can save him!
But if Stewie does that, it means he'll never have met Vinny, which actually saddens the kid a bit. Family Guy fans, on the other hand.
Good dog, Vinny. Good dog.
And so Stewie makes the save on Brian at the last moment. Definitely could have come back like 5 minutes before, but whatever, this is way more dramatic.
You're alive, my friend! What? Of course I'm alive. What the hell's going on here?
Stewie explains to Brian about the Dark Times, aka Season 12, Episodes 6 to 7.
Thank you for saving my life. You know, a lot of other families would have just gotten a different dog and moved on.
Yeah, but most families don't have as much money tied into merch of their dog. With Brian saved, this Stewie fades from existence, but his memory will stay with Brian forever.
Hey, who are you talking to out here?
A pretty awesome guy.
After the disastrous decision to kill off Brian, Family Guy quickly rectified it with a surprisingly heartwarming holiday episode. Fans were overjoyed to see Brian return to the family and were grateful to see a one-note character like Vinny move on. It was the right decision that followed up a wrong decision, and it easily made this the best episode of Season 12. But one of the best decisions the show ever made was to do a crossover with their biggest rivals in animation in the Season 13 episode, The Simpsons Guy. So the Griffins are chased out of town after Peter makes a sexist newspaper comic. How they haven't been chased out of town every month is beyond me.
We should get out of town till this all blows over.
But when they stop for gas, their car gets stolen, forcing them to go on foot to the town next door. Now is that Springfield, Missouri? Springfield, Illinois? Springfield, Georgia? Springfield, Tennessee? The answer is yes. While in town, Peter meets his lazy dad counterpart, Homer Simpson.
Apu, a dozen donuts for our albino visitors.
So while the police look for their car, the Griffins bunk with the Simpson family. Finally, we get all the legendary interactions fans have been wanting for years, like Bart and Stewie.
Hello, Mo. Your sister's being... Is that one?
If you needed to see the difference in edge between The Simpsons and Family Guy, there you go. Then there's the iconic pairing of Meg and Lisa. Okay, iconic might be a bit of a stretch.
Meg, you need to know that you matter.
Really? No one's ever told me I mattered before.
Hope you can deal with that for a little longer, cause we're moving on. Oh, and how could we forget Brian and Santa's little helper?
So is that like your thing? You eat loud?
But of course, Peter and Homer have the most in common. Some would say too much in common. Surely there's a metaphor to help my dumb clam brain understand that better.
It's not a rip-off of Duff. It may have been inspired by Duff, but I like to think it goes in a different direction.
Well, according to some people, Pawtucket is just Duff with a different coat of paint.
Well, your livelihood is based on fraud. Look at this. Huh?
So Family Guy, Pawtucket, is taken to court over intellectual theft.
Several other Duff variations, packages, and design elements have been similarly infringed.
Oh, so what? So only one show can have a James Woods in it?
Well, the Pawtucket Brewery will be shut down, so I guess we gotta go back to Quahog and find Peter a new job.
Maybe there will be a toy factory or fishing boat looking to hire. It's always good to get back to your roots. But Peter isn't looking to leave on good terms.
I am over The Simpsons.
Well, what are you saying?
I'm saying The Simpsons suck.
Cue the chicken fight music. The dads brawl their way across town, space, and back to Earth before ending with a truce.
I'm sorry we fought. I just wanted to make you laugh and cry. You see, I'm a family guy.
Copyrighted, trademarked, LLC. I think this crossover was more than worth the wait. Seeing two icons go head-to-head both comedically and physically is truly a sight to see, with neither being afraid to poke fun at themselves and the other. When Family Guy goes big, they go big, and this massive crossover certainly didn't disappoint. But we return to Quahog for a more straightforward yet stellar episode, where Stewie faces his nightmares and Peter makes a man cave in the attic in the Season 14 episode, A Lot Going On Upstairs. So Stewie has a classic nightmare about being naked at school. My dreams are a little different. Whenever I'm naked in my dreams, everyone else is terrified. My therapist has their work cut out for him, huh? This monster keeps popping up in his dreams, from a dinner at Glenn Close's house to Stewie forgetting his lines in the Family Guy intro.
Pumpkin pie!
What the hell? Put him on the bench.
Does this imply they all perform the intro in every episode? Seems like a lot of work. So Stewie scooches into bed with Peter, who now can't sleep himself. Since he's used to being passed out drunk on the dinner table, he gives that a try.
Well, why don't you go up to the attic? I think there's even a futon up there.
And plenty of insulation foam particles to breathe in. But he actually loves it up there and turns it into his own little hangout spot.
Even made it extra awesome by stealing a real street sign.
Like most street signs, it probably wasn't important anyway. But Peter and the guys' upstairs antics grow to be too much for Lois to handle.
I want you out of this attic now.
No way, we ain't leaving. We're having too much fun up here.
Well, I hope you really love it up there, because Lois isn't letting you out.
Did she just lock us in here?
Peter's pad is no girls allowed, and as they'll find out, no air conditioning allowed either. Meanwhile, to cure his nightmares, Stewie decides to build a device that will let Brian step into his dreams. Cue the Inception sound effect.
And once you're in my dream, your job is to stop these nightmares by finding that monster and killing him.
I get Brian is the dog of the house, but surely you could have found better muscle than this guy. So Brian and Stewie traverse through all sorts of nightmares until they finally come face to face with Stewie's dream demon. And like Eminem once said, you only get one shot, you do not get two shots. That's how that song goes, right? But when the monster dies, his true identity is revealed to be Brian.
Deep down, the thing I'm most afraid of is disappointing you.
I guess Brian is kind of more of a father figure to Stewie than Peter is. A father figure that Stewie has really liked kissing in the past. Maybe they should tackle that nightmare next. Back in the real world, the guys have been trapped for hours and must resort to heinous threats to get out.
Lois, so help me God, if you don't let us out right this second, I'm gonna take a dump on your wedding dress.
And something tells me it's not one of those brown wedding dresses. I guess her point was made, so she lets them out.
There! You happy?
You were too late. We pooed on the gown.
Well, a lesson was learned. What it was, I do not know. This episode managed to juggle both a goofy side plot involving Peter in the attic alongside a deeper central plot of Stewie facing his fears. Not only does the dream-centric story lead to some cool, weird imagery, but it also gives us a deeper look into Stewie and Brian's relationship. But Peter's relationship with food is tackled next in the 16th episode of season 15, where he starts up his own food truck in Saturated Fat Guy. So after watching a documentary about unhealthy foods, Lois decides it's time the family changes their diets.
From now on, we're eating healthy around here. We're gonna feel better and we're gonna look better.
And that house is about to start smelling very weird. So Lois tries their first superfood dinner featuring quinoa.
Nope, I don't eat foods that sound like karate words.
Well then you're really missing out on Kung Pao shrimp. But he does give it a try and has a totally normal reaction to it. What else do you expect from a man with the diet and mind of a 6-year-old? So Peter has to resort to eating convenience store junk food in his car.
Peanut butter cup, Dorito, sausage, car panini. And let's crack a Cadbury egg over the whole thing.
And if you're curious about how that tastes, never fear because Binging with Babish has got you covered.
I don't know how you guessed, but this is a really gross sandwich.
But somehow this abomination on bread attracts the attention of Cleveland and others passing by.
Tell you what, I'll give you $10 for that thing.
Yeah, me too.
And as expected, Peter takes this business on the road. Solid truck name, by the way.
This, Lois, is my new food truck, specializing in all the delicious, unhealthy foods that you won't let me eat.
I'd give the business only a few weeks and Peter's heart a little less than that. But Peter's truck catches on to the point that the family prefers it over Lois's healthy cooking.
All right, I got a bowl of cereal that's M&M's and Dr. Pepper.
Over here.
I am so glad junk food hasn't made its way into the ocean yet.
You love this truck so much, stay in it. Cause I don't want you or your food in the house.
Get a divorce or just keep having weekly spouse-inflicted migraines? Really seems like a tough choice. So Peter tries truck life, which is just a step down from van life.
Peter, this is awful.
Well, I love it. And I'm not going back in that house and listen to Lois tell me how fat and unhealthy I am.
I'm sure your 18 bowel movements a day probably tell you enough. But Peter's weight gets in the way of his lifelong dream of being photographed by a Bing's Map Street View car. The only thing more disturbing than his weight is the fact he uses Bing. Use Google Maps, you peasant!
Damn it! I can't fit through the door! I'm stuck in a truck!
So Peter ends up needing the dead whale treatment, getting his unmolded clay body craned out of the truck.
I guess you must be happy.
Yeah, it's every girl's dream to have a husband hoisted out of a food truck in a horse harness.
But he realizes that Lois just wants him to be healthy so they can live longer together. Well, judging by how he looks, I think he got maybe a few more hours before his heart explodes.
I guess I could do without eating so much junk. But I could never do without you.
Nothing too deep or revelatory about this episode, it's just a good, silly time. Peter's disgusting food combinations are honestly the highlight, showing you new ways to creatively clog your arteries. It's a bit refreshing to see Peter's conflict come from being something other than a huge jerk, reminding us of the lovable idiot we fell in love with all those years ago. But after all those years, Family Guy has never won an Emmy, so Peter decided to change the show around in a final attempt to win one in the best episode of season 16, Emmy-Winning episode.
Family Guy has been around since 1999, and whenever it's time for the Emmys, they don't give us one.
So his thought process is if you want to win an Emmy, you need to be an Emmy-winning show.
So get all your pukes and farts out now.
I guess it's no real mystery as to why they haven't won yet. So Peter replaces Lois with Sofia Vergara and makes a brave, totally genuine, and not award-baity announcement.
I've made plans to undergo surgery so my wang don't get in the way of the woman what I am.
That's all well and good, but if you want that award, you're gonna have to commit to that sausage chopping.
Doc, I'm not actually going through with the operation. I'm going home.
We're doing this whether you like it or not.
Well, Peter didn't have the stones to go through with getting rid of his stones, so maybe they should try a different genre.
We'll sneak into the drama category.
So Peter's enjoying being a dad and permanently having a full head of hair until he gets the news.
You have cancer.
How long do I have to live?
1 week.
Well, I only know one cure for the Big C, and that's turning to a life of crime.
Remember, kill anything that moves.
Even a kid?
Especially a kid.
So Peter's raking in illegal money, which draws the attention of Joe.
Where'd you get the money for a briefcase like that, Peter? I want in.
So everyone from science teachers to cops to criminals is crooked? I mean, if you can't trust your neighborhood dealer, who can you trust? When he reveals this to Lois, she proves she's willing to do whatever she can to secure their way of life.
I have grown accustomed to Hulu Plus. If you think I'm going back to regular Hulu, you're crazy.
So a half-naked Peter executes that cop out in the desert, only to run into the Night King and a dragon. Look, it doesn't have to make sense, it just needs to be dark, complex, and morally ambiguous.
2P Griffin from the Emmy Board of Governors. Dear Mr. Griffin, stop.
So they try other categories, but nothing sticks. It's not until Peter gets a visit from Bill Maher that he learns the truth.
Are you saying there's a conspiracy against us?
Follow the Emmy.
Ah yes, a classic excuse. Something I don't understand? It's gotta be a global conspiracy. Why yes, I only use the highest quality tinfoil for my hat. But Peter's research does dig up some shocking information.
It's like there's some kind of secret society that takes all the awards and is keeping us from getting one.
And if you have doubts, those people are here to tell them themselves.
Your show sucks.
They explain that the show could never win because it's crude, problematic, and relies too much on cheap pop culture references. While that may all be true, this episode proves that the Emmys aren't always a signifier of quality. Family Guy hit 25 years on air for a reason, and this episode's jokes, references, and self-awareness are proof of the show's staying power. Family Guy's a weirdo, but they're our weirdo. And things get weird when Brian and Stewie shrink down to microscopic levels in the best episode of season 17, Big Trouble in Little Quahog. So Stewie's tired of being picked on for his height and decides to get back at Brian with a new invention. Just what we always wanted, a Brian you can fit in your pocket. He would kill as a new Christmas toy.
Well, hello there, little guy.
What the hell did you do to me, Stewie?
Stewie has his fun with Lil Bry, but before he can change him back, he gets dognapped by a rat. Man, Remy really went off the deep end after the restaurant closed down.
Help!
Oh, crap!
So Stewie shrinks himself down to save Brian, turning that rat into a pencil sharpener.
I'll have what she's having.
If she is referring to the rat, I think I'll pass. But before they can make it back to the machine, the duo are vacuumed up and dumped outside. Gotta say though, the world looks magnificent from this size.
Ah! Oh my god!
Oh, what is that? What's on us?
Oh yeah, they're definitely getting that Emmy now. But they managed to make it back to the device, only to accidentally shrink themselves to an even smaller size.
Wait, did you hit the tiny button or the button that says tiny?
I hit the button that says tiny. You said hit the tiny button.
Exactly!
Would it have been better if Stewie wrote big on the smaller button, or would all this still be equally as stupid? In the microscopic world, they meet a water bear named Vernon. He looks neither like a bear nor water. We really just call animals anything, huh? Actually, the water bear's name derives from— Shut up, nerd.
I can't believe there's this whole universe hidden here in your rug, where everyone speaks English.
Yeah, I really thought the microscopic world would speak more Chinese. So Vernon and his friends decide to help Stewie and Brian get back to the device, but they get ambushed by an army of dust mites.
Now! You never told me what to do.
Jump! Why? Trust me!
So using their microscopic weight and the dust mites, they manage to hit the button that makes them big again.
My god, it worked! Stewie, you're a genius!
Look, if you're gonna have an episode about big things getting small, you gotta deliver on a small thing getting big too. Luckily, the house is conveniently being bug bombed, with them inside.
Ah!
Ah, poison gas! They must have gotten an exterminator for the rat!
And as the mites close in and all hope seems lost, a guardian angel suddenly swoops in.
Tiny Tom Cruise?
Don't you love it when a one-off joke from earlier comes to play a major role in the end?
You have children in there?
Oh yeah, 3. Should we mention that?
Ah, well, it doesn't matter. This was another fun, out there episode that managed to deliver a lot of fun with its little premise. It isn't the most original concept, but Family Guy elevates it with their trademark humor and maybe a desire to kinda ride the coattails of Rick and Morty. But Family Guy was doing dimension-hopping sci-fi comedy before them, so who's really copying who? But the 13th episode of Season 18 sticks with the sci-fi motif as it looked into the future to see Stewie reuniting with his family as an elderly Peter is about to die in rich old Stewie. Many years in the future, an elderly Stewie is being recognized as Man of the Year for his scientific advancements.
When Stewie invented the wipeless dump, our rainforests were hanging on by a thread.
Who knew making it so you don't have to wipe after using the bathroom would save the world? I've been saying it for years, but everyone just calls me gross and unhygienic.
I'm now going to stop mid-sentence because I see someone from my... Brian?
Wow, he hasn't aged a decade. A big thanks to another Stewie invention.
I invented a pill to extend your life. It's called Semper Fido.
Well, I hope you have another one of those lying around because it sounds like someone may need it.
You have to come back. Stewie, Peter is dying.
What?
I know. I'm surprised to hear he made it to 52. So the pair road trip home, picking up Stewie's siblings along the way, starting with Chris.
Yeah, I kinda wasted my life, except I obsessed over teaching my how to talk.
More like a life well spent if you ask me. Next up for the Griffin Uber, Meg. Wonder what she's been up to. Yeah, maybe Stewie was right to leave home at a young age. The desert does weird things to people. They finally make it to the old home, and are we sure a bomb didn't detonate in this part of town?
Oh, my baby's finally all together again.
Well, at least Lois aged gracefully. Peter aged with about as much grace as a walrus doing ballet.
Your father's had severe diabetes ever since they opened 3 ice cream stores in town.
Stewie feels guilty over abandoning the family, but Peter just makes him promise to take care of them after he dies. That dying part sure is taking a while.
Family, help me dance.
A family member dying is terrible and all, but can we maybe speed it up a bit?
His final words.
Lactating, pregnant, Latinas.
He knows he's dying and not using Siri to Google something, right? Regardless, he slips away surrounded by his loving family.
We will celebrate his life. The finest cigars for the finest family ever to live.
Nothing like puffing over a family member's corpse. That's actually in my will, for those wondering.
I must get my affairs in order and transfer my money to all of you. I will see you all soon.
But as soon as he leaves, the Griffins solidify themselves as the worst family to ever live. Yeah, so it was all a scam to get his money, but Stewie knew this. Did they forget the guy was a genius? An evil genius?
Chris should be lighting his cigar right about...
But it all turns out to be a daydream he's having while at the Halloween store. Look, sometimes you gotta imagine the next 50 years of your life before you pick out a costume. Episodes that jump ahead in time can be very fun, and this one didn't disappoint. A lot of people love seeing what happens to all the characters later down the line, as well as how the character dynamics have changed. But it seems no matter how far in the future you go, some people just don't change. But the future clashed with the present when Stewie's invention traveled through time to destroy him in the 13th episode of Season 19, PeTerminator. So one night, a naked Peter appears outside the clam, which I guess isn't a totally out-of-place sight there.
This isn't Big Mouth. You're not gonna see it.
No complaints over here. Anyway, this Peter arms himself, dons Peter's discarded bathroom clothes, and has a classic encounter with Ernie the Giant Chicken. Huh, why hasn't Peter ever tried that before? But this Peter looks an awful lot like a cyborg drawing Stewie's making.
The technology is still years off, even for me. I've got a lot of kinks to work out.
Didn't think time and multiversal travel was easier to achieve than a robot, but hey, what do I know? My PhD is in marine biology. Yes, because I'm a clam. Well, somebody must have figured it out because the PeTerminator arrives at the Griffin household.
Okay, Terminator, kill Lois. What are you doing? She's in the kitchen!
But this Terminator has different plans, chasing Stewie and Brian across town and through an underpass slowed down only by his own Peterisms. I guess we know this robot runs on gas rather than electricity. The two hide out at a motel but are quickly found by the PeTerminator. When Brian tries to shield Stewie, the robot backs down.
You are Brian Griffin. You programmed me to kill your enemy, Stuart Griffin.
Hey, props to Brian on that late-in-life degree in robotics. Guess you're not as dumb as everyone says.
Stewie, how could this happen? We're best friends. Sadly, it doesn't appear we stay that way.
So they travel to the robot's home year, 2060, to find the world ravaged by a war between Stewie and Brian robots. Now that's vanity.
Oh my god! It's all true!
They manage to track down an absolutely chiseled Stewie who reveals the cause of this future apocalypse.
What happened? Brian and I were friends. He ruined what could have been a perfect Instagram post with a sarcastic comment.
You know, that's probably what wars will be fought over in the future. I'm sure the millions who will lose their lives will understand. To avoid souring their relationship, the pair go on a road trip because nothing strengthens a relationship like being stuck together in a small fart box for hours.
Do we really need the heat on?
It's the defrost.
But whatever it is, do you really need it on?
Yeah, they're one disagreement away from slitting each other's throats. But before they can, they get pulled over by a very familiar-looking cop.
Hello, Brian.
Brian, that's not a cop. That's a Lois Terminator!
As the PeTerminator fights to save Brian, more familiar-looking Terminators are sent back to try and destroy them.
Our future selves must know we're deprogramming their Terminators. They're sending back more!
You know they mean business. They even sent back the ostrich that goes, haha. Since the odds aren't looking good, they decide to change the future by showing just how much they love each other in the present. Take a wild guess what Stewie's idea is.
We have to kiss.
Oh, come on, Stewie.
But despite Brian's objections, they do it anyway, and it actually changes the future. Only real homies aren't afraid to show their true feelings, though I don't think most use that much tongue. Parodying a classic sci-fi movie, PeTerminator delivers impressive, high-octane action, which may just shock some who only see this as a comedy show. Plus, it gives us more of the bromance between Stewie and Brian, which is a classic combo in itself. But our next episode takes classic literally, as Family Guy tackles a hard-boiled crime noir about a murdered nun in the season 20 episode, The Fatman Always Rings Twice. So our story takes place in a monochromatic 1930s city where Peter is a private detective named Book Pro. Mac Book Pro. Apple wasn't around yet, so they couldn't sue.
So, Mr. Book Pro, I'm here because my daughter is missing. She's a nun.
Enamored by this dame, Mac takes the case, first checking out the church the nun practiced at.
Greetings, my son. Cardinal St. Louis, likely bad guy. Mac Book Pro.
Look, the 1930s weren't the best of times, but they sure knew how to do a punny name. Not finding the answers he's looking for, Mac teams up with a reporter pal to question a speakeasy bartender.
I heard that when the state voted on prohibition, he rigged the vote to get alcohol banned.
But asking too many questions can draw a lot of attention, as Mac soon finds out.
I hear you've been snooping around the disappearance of a nun.
Well, I didn't mean to ruffle anyone's feathers.
I think it was actually a law back then that all private detectives had to be as wisecracking as possible. Mac makes it out with his life, but it looks like the missing sister Megan wasn't so lucky.
Well, one thing's for sure. We got a killer shark on our hands.
Good luck trying to slap some cuffs on one of those things. Although the nun is dead, that doesn't mean the case is, as Mac finds pictures of the cardinal associating with the mob.
Well, maybe they were in cahoots. Sister Megan discovered it, and that's why the cardinal had her killed?
Everyone was in cahoots back in the day. We should bring that back. So Mac goes to have a little chat with the cardinal, but he ain't talking.
For the murder of Sister Megan. Oof! The truth hurts, doesn't it, Cardinal?
Yeah, but knives seem to hurt a little bit more. With the cardinal dead and Mac caught holding the knife, the private eye is shipped off to the slammer.
Hey, Mac, you made bail.
Really? Who in this town has $3?
Man, no wonder the murder rates were so high back then. So Mac heads down to the docks to find the nun's mother trying to skip town.
You never had a daughter. You were bootlegging with the cardinal. You killed the woman who found you out, and then you killed the cardinal so you could have all the dough to yourself.
Sounds good enough for me. All these twists are starting to give me a migraine anyhow.
Well, well, detective. I guess you made my party after all.
Another twist? Come on, I just took some Tylenol. So it turns out Mac's secretary was the true culprit, an orphan who killed the abusive Sister Megan and the cardinal, framing Mac so he would take the fall. But like a true detective, Mac is omnipotent and knows to be prepared.
I got a friend at the harbor who owed me one.
The bad guy goes down and the good guy gets the girl. A powerful story back when you didn't need extended universes and crossovers to get butts in seats. This little throwback to classic film noir gave the writers a ton of material to craft jokes around the time period. From the corny names to the dreary black and white aesthetic, this turned out to be a super solid parody that can be enjoyed regardless of how much you know about classic capers. But one thing I wish I didn't know is details about Peter and Lois's bedroom life, as we learn a lot about their habits when Lois's hypnosis on Peter backfires in disturbing ways in season 21's The Munchurian Candidate. So Lois is gossiping with the gals when the topic of her and Peter's love life gets brought up.
How do I put this? Let's just say Peter doesn't always Munchausen my proxy.
I have no clue what that is, and yet I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, please, no more.
Like he doesn't always go to Australia. You know, the land down under.
So the couple decides to see a therapist, but Peter's a little too shy to talk about this stuff.
So Lois tells me you don't like doing everything in the bedroom.
Well, if you can't talk through it, how about hypnosis? Because this definitely seems like something worth altering the brain for.
And from now on, whenever you hear the words extra, extra.
Whoops, that was his phone notification sound pulled from the show Extra. Lois thinks the hypnosis didn't work, but late night TV would prove otherwise. Extra, extra. Like a Russian sleeper agent, Peter awakens, ready to fulfill his duty. But instead of taking someone down, he's the one going down, and that's probably the best way I can put that without getting demonetized.
Peter, last night was amazing.
Oh, when I farted the Pledge of Allegiance?
So he has no memory of it happening, but has a very easy way to trigger it. A girl could get used to this. But Lois's dream turns into a nightmare when they go to her parents' house for dinner with her mother sick in bed.
Do you mind making a plate and bringing it up for Mommy?
Yeah, I can do that.
That's the life. A little dinner in bed, a little late night celebrity news programming, a little... oh, crap.
Oh my god, oh my god!
And what happens next is probably why this is the most popular episode of season 21. A noise so terrifying, so earth-shattering that I remember seeing it everywhere on social media after this episode aired.
Peter!
And unlike the last episode, you don't need to be a detective to figure out what just happened. Well, it happened. It's out there. Time to just drive home and never think about this night again. Well, look on the bright side. At least you guys already have a therapist to see.
Hey, guys.
Peter, no.
Yeah, sorry for the nightmare fuel. This episode was shocking to say the least, and it managed to get the internet buzzing about an over 20-year-old show in ways we haven't seen in a while. But the shock factor was actually clever and hilarious rather than just being cheap for the sake of being shocking. It's certainly a standout of newer Family Guy for most, being proof that they still have what it takes to be culturally relevant. And for the latest season, I found the 4th episode to be the best of the bunch, where Peter and Lois had to escape senior citizens trying to harvest their organs in season 22's Old World Harm. So Peter and Lois have enough saved up to take a couple's vacation. Finally, a chance to get away from whatever BS Peter's cooking up at home.
Peter, what the hell?
Case in point. Now that he spent all their vacation money on that jetpack, it looks like that trip isn't happening.
Why don't you use my mom's condo in Florida?
Ah yes, the state of sweltering summers, alligators in your backyard, and a whole genre of criminal named after it. It's perfect. There's just one little hang-up about this trip.
Peter, this isn't a vacation home. This is a retirement community.
To be fair, that's just most of the state. But it's not all bad, as Lois gets the chance to be the hottest girl in town, and all it took was staying with a bunch of wrinkly, walking corpses.
You ever been with a man who knows the price of milk in 1942?
Can't say that I have.
Meanwhile, Peter's feeling more useful than he's ever been here.
Oh, such a strong boy. Here, have a chicken stick.
I think there's a law that says every elderly person must carry around candy as old as the Korean War.
Being the youngest, healthiest people here sure has its perks. It's like everyone wants a piece of us.
Oh, you have no idea.
Before we harvest the organs of these two young meatbags, we need to decide who gets what.
Oh, dibs on Peter's stomach. I could use a new beanbag chair. But Lois starts to suspect something is amiss when people start asking weird questions about their bodies. To be fair, that's just a normal old person thing to do.
Are you a D cup, or is that just gravity?
Oh, just gravity.
Just a half rack, Tony.
Once Lois blows the lid off the operation, she and Peter try to get out with all their limbs intact.
Calling all coots! Red Dawn and the Waddler have flown the coop!
Come on, at least give Peter the dignity of a better code name. But they find themselves at a locked gate with nowhere else to run.
If we have to take your organs by force, then so be it.
Alright, I guess we're getting an old person beatdown. Is it weird to be as excited about that as I am?
Fight until...
It's 4:04!
Oh, we're missing dinner!
Dang, I guess I'll just have to get my old people fighting fix elsewhere. Back to the underground fight rings and retirement homes for me. Oh yeah, and someone might want to tell Joe.
Did you get the legs? Damn it!
This season was so new that it was a bit hard to gauge which was the standout, but this one is certainly a contender. It takes the crazy state of Florida and lampoons one of its most prominent populations to a pretty fun degree, almost feeling like the movie Get Out. A simple but fun execution, which is sometimes all you need to be the best of a season. But what are some of your favorite episodes? Let us know down in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe for more great Family Guy content, including more list videos you can watch right now.